Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. It's 7 o'clock on July 2nd. That's July, yeah. March 2nd, 2020. The date and the time that the annual town meeting of the town of Ludlow was voted. That was award for.
I can the mic, can't hear you.
Can't hear? You got your hearing aid on?
Yeah, got turned up special.
Okay, in that case, talking to the mic. It's not turned on? It's turned on. Gotta get real close to it, and I'm sure I'll forget that. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for your seats. I'm going to introduce the people at the front desk, at the front table here. Everybody's got a name tag this year, so probably not necessary, but I'll do it anyway. To my right, your left, Justin Hijack, Heather Tucker, John Neal, Brett Sanderson, Bruce Schmidt. That's your select board. Next is Mr. Scott Murphy, the town manager. And of course, Ulla Cook. Everybody knows Ulla. He's the only one who got a hand. And I'm the moderator, Marty Nitka. No applause. So let me just go over a couple of rules. Way we conduct the town meeting, most of you know this already, and I'll just briefly highlight some of it. We do by Robert's Rules of Order, or my understanding of them anyway. We're going to do the articles one by one. The articles are on page 10 of the town report. And we will do those one at a time. When we get done with one, we'll move on to the next. Once we're done with an article, you can't go back. All voting will be done by voice vote. The exception would be if 7 voters here make a request to do it by written ballot, then we would have a written ballot. That's by Vermont law. You need to be a registered voter to participate. We have the town manager here, and unless someone objects, he would normally be very helpful in explaining some articles, so I would be inclined to let him speak. We also have with us the 5th grade class, Heidi Bates' 5th grade class, and they're here as observers. They're in the second sixth grade class. So I'm going to read each article, then I will ask for a motion on that article, a second to the motion. We would then have discussion. When the discussion is over, we will have a vote. I will then announce the result of the vote, and we will then move on to the next article. During the discussion, I would ask you all to, if you're going to address that article, to please rise and identify yourself by name so we can get a record of this, and address all your comments to me, and then I will pass it on. If the town manager says something, you have a question to him, address it to me, and I'll pass it back to him. We don't want back and forth in the hall here without going through the front here. So, as I said, we're going to act on the articles which appear on page 10 of the town meeting. Unless someone has some questions, we will move right on. The first article, Article 1, to elect town officers for the coming year. That's done by Australian ballot tomorrow. I think the polls open at 10. 10? The polls open at 10 and they're open till, it says right there, open till 7. So that business will be taken care of tomorrow. The rest of the articles we're all going to do tonight. And the first of those is Article 2. Shall the voters of the town of Ludlow, excuse me, hear town officers' reports for the period from July 1, 2017 to June 30th, 2018. Do I have a motion on Article 2? Mr. Buckley?
I believe those dates are wrong.
I'm advised that you're right. So should be July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. Yeah, I'm not going to go through a lot of formality about amending and everything. Everybody understands the new dates. I'm going to read it again. Shall the voters of the town of Ludlow hear the town officers' reports for the period from July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. Is there a motion on Article 2? Mr. Buckley?
I move the article.
You move to approve the officer, the report of the town officer? Pardon me?
The articles you just made.
Motion's been made to approve the town officer's report. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Bixby. Discussion on Article 2. Mr. Buckley.
On page 47.
Page 47 of the town report.
Yes. The next to last paragraph. Present their recommendation to the select board in September 2020. That was September 2019.
I'm not seeing it. Page 47.
Second to last paragraph from the bottom, right?
Would you say again what you think the correction should be, Mr. Buckley?
On page 47.
Yes?
The committee will consider the building's history, condition, oil tank liability, fire code compliance, expense, revenue, risk considerations, and potential uses, and present their recommendations to the select board in September of 2020.
Yeah.
That was presented in September 2019.
You mean it's already been presented?
Yes.
Further discussion on Article 2. There appearing to be none. All those in, I'm sorry, Mr. LeGros.
Make the correction, remove the article.
Does it need correcting?
It does for what this says,
Just the dates.
the date.
It's implying that it's still going to be done, it's already been done.
It certainly implies that. Go ahead, Mr. LeGros, you want to make a motion to correct the town report?
Make the motion to correct the date.
To correct the date. Is there a second to that? Seconded by Mr. Jerkois. So it's going to be 2019. All right. All those in favor of the motion, which is to approve the town officers' reports as amended. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? And the ayes have it. The town officers' reports are approved as amended. Article 3, shall the voters of the town of Ludlow vote to use the sum of $95,879.14 from the Special Revenue Fund for municipal transit to reduce the town tax rate and subsequently eliminate the fund. Is there a motion on Article 3? Mr. Pace,
I move we approve Article 3.
is there a second to Mr. Pace's motion? Mr. LeGros?
Second.
Mr. LeGros got that first. Discussion on Article 3. There appearing to be none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? The ayes have it. And Article 3 is approved. Article 4, shall the voters of the town of Ludlow fix the salaries of the select board, cemetery commissioners, and trustees of public funds for the ensuing year? I think this requires more than just to approve.
Moderator?
Yes.
I move that we add $100 to each one of those positions. It's been many years since those positions have had any increase. And we're fortunate that we have people still volunteering to do those positions. If you read the articles and pay attention to what's going on in our community, we get less and less volunteers. The police department, fire department, ambulance department, and we're having to pay big money, not big money necessarily, but more money for all these positions. So I think it's a small token, after all these years, we increase these positions by $100 to let these folks that are volunteering, using their gas and time and everything, that we appreciate what they're doing for our community. Thank you. Thank God.
I think maybe we should start out by the town manager or someone telling us what the current salaries are for each of those positions.
They go to page 13 that explains it.
Mr. Murphy, do you have that?
Page 13.
It's on page 13, apparently. Select board is $1,500 per year, cemetery commission is $800 per year, and the trustees of public funds is $300 per year.
So, is there a second to Mr. Van Guyler's motion? Yes, Ms. Gurdak.
I'll second it.
Seconded, okay. And the article asks us to set those salaries, and Mr. Van Guyler has made a motion to set the salaries by adding $100 to each of the positions, which are current, the current pay scale is on page 13, Article 4 last year. Discussion on the motion. Yes, Ms. Thompson.
It would seem to me that it should be a percentage increase rather than $100 across the board, since the trustees of public lands only get $300 a year, and that would be a $100 increase would be quite a lot as compared to the select board who get $1,500.
I'm trying to figure out how to handle this.
You've got a motion for $100 on each one.
Yeah, we dispose of that, and then we can go back. Yeah, that's all right. So, right now, we're going to deal with Mr. Van Guyler's motion to set the salaries $100 each. If that gets defeated, then we will be free to consider other options. Discussion on Article 4. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Dean Alexander, I would just I would agree with Ms. Thompson about that, that a percentage increase down the line would be, I think, more appropriate.
So we'll put you in the no column?
Put me in the
Okay. Mr. Kirkbride?
Isn't the select board, the commissioners now? There's only, what is it, a couple, Herb or somebody else that's not on the select board? That's on the cemetery commission?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I thought that they changed, that or town government changed it a couple of years ago, that the select board is the commissioners of the cemetery.
I don't believe so.
Well, why are they always sitting on a board there telling them what to do?
Select board members do.
Both the cemetery commissioners are Herbie, Bob Brandt, Louis Gabransky, myself, and Brett, and we ran for the positions. I ran last year, Brett ran before, so they're elected positions. We just happened to decide we wanted to be on the cemetery commission too.
My mistake.
No problem.
Yeah, they're separate. So, further discussion on Mr. Van Guyler's motion relating to Article 4. There appears to be none. Does everybody have in mind what Mr. Van Guyler's proposal was, is to give everybody a $100 raise? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Let's do it again. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. I think we're going to have to do a division of the house. So, yeah, maybe raise hand. We'll try a raise hand and see if I can figure it out from that. Everybody in favor signify, raise your hand. Either hand, right or left. Okay, those are in favor. Okay, the nays? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Mr. Van Guyler's motion is adopted, and that disposes of the article. Article 5, shall the town of Ludlow collect taxes on real property in installments, taxes to be paid to the town treasurer on August 17, 2020, November 16, 2020, February 15, 2021, and May 17, 2021, and must be delivered to the town treasurer and postmarked on or before the due date. Is there a motion on Article 5? Mr. Murphy,
Make a motion to adopt Article 5 as printed.
is there a second to Mr. Murphy's motion? Mr. Kirkbride, discussion on Article 5. Mr. Van Guyler.
For those of us that pay our taxes in installment, we have a due date when taxes have to be finally paid. Why are we charged interest when we pay on installment? And we should not have to pay it until we're delinquent on the final date of paying taxes.
I don't believe I pay interest on my installments, but
They're paid on time, huh?
so you gotta pay it by that date, otherwise you get a penalty.
Right.
You don't get any break or if you pay them early.
No.
You're only penalized if you don't pay them on time.
If you miss the installment, You
Yeah.
charge interest, as I understand.
And the penalty, yeah.
Why do you charge interest? Because the final date of paying taxes is set. If you save your money, instead of paying an installment, and you wait till the final date, why should you have to be paying interest? It's not due until the final date.
Because the town voted this article year after year, it says you gotta pay them on these dates.
Well, I hate to tell you, the town was wrong.
Mr. Alexander,
I believe if you didn't have installments, it would all be due the first day.
it may, I'm sure there's a statute that governs that too, but. Further discussion on Article 5. There appearing to be none. All those in favor of the motion, which was to approve Article 5, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
The ayes appear to have it. Article 6, shall the voters of the town of Ludlow authorize the select board to borrow money to pay the necessary expenses of the town and any part of its indebtedness? Is there a motion on Article 6? Mr. Bixby,
I'll move to approve Article 6.
is there a second to Mr. Bixby's motion? Mr. Kirkbride, discussion on Article 6. Mr. Murphy,
I believe Article 6 is why Article 5 is so important.
okay. Further discussion on Article 6. All those in favor of the motion to approve Article 6 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And Article 6 is adopted. Article 7, shall the voters of the town of Ludlow vote a specific amount in lieu of a rate on a dollar on the grand list as set forth in the select board's budget and the Windsor County budget. Then the select board shall set the tax rate necessary to raise this amount after the grand list has been completed and lodged in the office of the town clerk. The amount to be raised by taxes will be $4,082,863. Is there a motion on Article 7? Mr. Welch, to approve the article?
Yes.
Motion made by Mr. Welch to approve Article 7. Is there a second to Mr. Welch's motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded? Are you seconding that? Yeah, okay. Discussion on Article 7. This is the town budget. Ms. Bixby.
I just have a question about the ambulance, and I don't know if it's appropriate in this article or number 9.
Try it.
Right. Okay. I know that there was a survey, I can't say enough about the ambulance, I visited my mom many times. But I think maybe they're underfunded, so I'd just like to know what the future plans are we going to have to hire another employee? Do we have enough staff? I know that visual aids got dropped way down, which is a good thing. They're covering most of the calls.
Okay, to the front table for response.
So Sharon, as you probably might know, we hired a ambulance consultant firm that came in and evaluated the Ludlow ambulance service. And they made many recommendations, 64 recommendations. And we've instituted some of them already, made some changes already. Some of the things that are most effective is that we switched to a paid staff, so we have a 24/7 paid staff now. It allows us a quicker response, better survival odds. We've already seen a couple great examples of that, and requires ongoing training that they have to have. So It also has generated some other changes throughout it, like the management structure has been changed, the billing service, the select board approved us with the new billing service, which will help us facilitate getting our funds back quicker from Medicaid, Medicare, and private payers. The select board also approved the new rates, so that'll help increase our fiscal position. And we've got an agreement with towns and tighter control on the financial situation. So it's a slow-moving financial boat that's turning. We don't know how far it's going to turn. Frankly, this budget, it's an enterprise fund, a proprietary fund, so it's not tied into the general fund budget. But it's, as it sits now, we've got a negative budget prepared for this year. And so we're trying to see if all these changes make a financial effect that we want to make. But on the medical side, we've already instituted all those changes, and there's more to come, and everybody seems to be responsive to that, so we're thankful for that. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but this is a 10% increase. We've asked the other towns that provide funding the same amount. Frankly, the 10% is probably not enough, but I didn't feel it appropriate to ask for more than that at this time.
Yes, Ms. Bixby.
So it might be more relevant to bring it up in Article 9. Do you think that amount should be increased?
It's up to you. You can bring it up. Let's see, yeah, you can.
Probably, yeah.
Let's see. Let me look at Article 9 to see if I see an opportunity for that. I don't see it. I don't see an opportunity to do that in Article 9. There's nothing on the ambulance in Article 9.
Yeah.
There is? Oh, Article 9, I'm looking at Article 8. Yes, that would be a good spot. Further discussion on Article 7, which is the town budget. No, Article 7.
Previous vote for the increase in salaries affect the number in that article.
Good question. Take that and run with it.
It would have to approve this subject to that previous increase, because we don't have a dollar amount tied to it right now.
Further discussion on Article 7. There appearing to be none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Article 7 is approved. That's the town budget. Article 8. Shall the voters of the town of Ludlow authorize the select board to maintain a capital fund to support the following vehicle and equipment purchases, building maintenance and repairs, and to fund programs? The amount to be raised in taxes will be $92,500. Highway equipment, $40,000. Fire equipment fund, $30,000. Police equipment fund, $5,000. Recreation Facilities Fund, $5,000. Ludlow Town Hall Facilities Fund, $5,000. Ludlow Community Center Facilities Fund, $5,000. Black River Senior Center Facilities Fund, $2,500. And I presume all those add up to $92,500. Is there a motion on Article 8? Yes, Ms. Carter.
Can you fix up the article? And I just want to say I'm glad to group these together. It's usually 7 separate articles. I appreciate that.
I missed the first part. Was it to approve?
Yes.
To adopt it? Motion has been made to approve Article 8. Is there a second to Ms. Carter's motion? Mr. LeGros. You second it? Motion has been made to approve Article 8, and it's been seconded. Discussion on Article 8. Mr. Isaacs.
So, to pick up on what Terry just said, in previous years, people at this meeting have asked why we couldn't group all those articles together, and we were told by the powers that be that we couldn't do it because it wasn't allowed. What changed?
I think, my recollection is these things were always done by petition.
Alan, I don't know what happened previously. We checked with the state if we could do this. They said you could. Thought it was the easiest way to do it.
And I want to add to that too is, you questioned, the question was to put it under appropriations instead of voting on it, that it would be in the budget. And we said, no, we cannot do that. It has to be an article.
I thought we asked if all the capital items could be voted on as a group like this, and we were
No,
told
it wasn't questioned that way.
Any comment?
Mr. Kirkbride.
I'd just like to congratulate the board for putting them all on one article. We saved you 3/4 of an hour.
Thank you, Bob.
We probably stretch it out. Mr. Bakerman.
I'm just curious, I know you can't go back to articles, but is there an advantage or disadvantage to swinging the money from Article 3 onto Article 8, as opposed to raising and lowering and, you know what I mean? You have just about the same amount in that fund. Is there an advantage to just taking that and moving into Article 8, or is it more advantageous to the town to raise the money through taxes?
You can't go, you're right, you can't go back to Article 3, but I don't know if anybody.
Doesn't have a washout.
I don't know if anybody, select board, town manager, have any thoughts on that?
I don't think we can do that.
We can't do that.
The question really is, would it have been, is there an advantage to doing it that way, or is it just?
Right,
Speak right into the mic there, Brett.
So Article 3 is technically only 1 year. It's only this year and it's done. It'll be dissolved.
But isn't Article 8 this year as well, Brett?
It is, but that's an article that's on continuously every year for the same amounts unless somebody increases them.
There will be some version of Article 8 every year.
I understand that. It's not my first one. However, I'm just curious if the state of the bucks is an easier one or the other.
Further discussion on Article 8, Mr. Alexander.
I just have a question on page 14 where it lists the current balances, the addition of the additional funds, and the projected balances. Underneath that, it talks about expenditures that will be coming up. Some of those numbers don't add up to me. The town hall upgraded computers, $30,000. We paid for out of the fund. And the fund is only going to have $5,000. So that may be an inappropriate question, but I just wanted clarification.
There are no
on those numbers.
Question is fine. I was looking for, I was still leafing through when you started your question. Where should I, page 14?
Page 14, the box there lists the individual funds that we're talking about. The money will be added to.
Okay.
And underneath is a list of expenditures that are anticipated and how they're going to be paid for.
I got it. Okay.
And in at least 3 of the, probably in 4 or 5 categories, there's enough money in the fund to pay for those anticipated expenditures.
I believe I know the answer to
Police
that.
risk is 46,000, and the current fund would be 12,000.
Can anybody shed light on Mr. Alexander's question?
So Dean, I think if I'm following you, I'm not really sure, on page 14, you're looking at those highlighted or bullet pointed items where it says highway, police, town hall. Okay, so those are just separate from that funding balance. For instance, you see the town hall which says technology upgrade. So that's just something that's ongoing, that's not related to the actual money that we're putting into the capital account. Does that make sense?
It's not clear as I read it.
Right, it's kind of like that's unrelated to that column that has the capital balance.
I understand they're gonna buy a new truck, it's gonna be $180,000. They're gonna use fund money, and they're gonna use a note, and they're gonna use trade.
That's correct, yes.
And that can add up to $180,000.
Right.
But the other ones don't indicate where the extra money's coming.
You're right.
If the recreation department's gonna buy a tractor for $25,000, and they only have $14,400 available, where's the extra $11,000?
That's a different fund. So we haven't listed all the capital funds. So you're looking at the recreation facility fund, and the tractor is not coming from that. That comes from a separate capital account. Sorry for the confusion on that. We've got a long list of capital funds.
Okay.
All set, Mr. Alexander? Further discussion on Article 8. There appearing to be none. All those in favor of the motion, which was to approve Article 8, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And you have adopted Article 8. Article 9, excuse me. Shall the voters of the town of Ludlow appropriate the sum of $66,000 to the Ludlow Community Ambulance Service to help support their overall operations? Is there a motion on Article 9?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Van Galen.
I'd like to make, Herb Van Galen, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this article. Regrettably, I have had to use some of these services.
Just make the motion to adopt the article. We'll come back to discussion if we get a second, okay? Motion's been made by Mr. Van Galen to adopt Article 9. Is there a second to Mr. Van Galen's motion? Mr. Bakerman.
Second motion.
Discussion. Mr. Van Galen.
Yes. After you use some of these services that we have in this community, you don't appreciate how good they are until you're using them. As I say, regrettably. Our ambulance department, fire department, police department, second to none. As well as all of our other departments in this community. We are very fortunate that we have people in these departments that are all concerned about doing the best they can do for our community of Ludlow. And I probably, as I say, have a conflict of interest because I've had to use those departments. But I feel that strong now. Thank you.
Further discussion on Article 9. Ms. Bixby.
I agree with her, as I said, Mom's been a member, we just signed up as supporting subscribers, partners, so I think that's important that we all support the ambulance, but I wondered if we could direct this next question to Stephanie, the deputy chief of the ambulance.
Yeah, address it to me and I'll pass it on to the deputy.
So I guess I'm still, if Scott said that we're in a negative budget now for the ambulance, I'm still concerned that we don't have enough to fund it accurately, appropriately. So I'm wondering if Stephanie could tell us what the future plans look like. They think they're going to have to hire another person.
We'll see if Stephanie is so inclined. I assume you're Stephanie.
So we have, like Scott said, we made a lot of changes. We recently switched to a full-time department. We did that in October.
Is everybody here okay? No. We either have to speak up or you can avail yourself of the microphone here.
Is this better?
Yes, it is.
So we did the survey last year. We got a lot of really good feedback. One of the things that they suggested was that we go to a paid department, a paid full-time 24/7 staff department, which we are. We did that in October of 2019. We currently have 2 people there 24/7, 365 days a year. We have 4 full-time positions open right now. We have 3 of them filled. Sorry. The survey suggested that we have 5 to 6 full-time people is what we work towards getting. So as Scott said, the budget that we currently have is a deficit. We made the budget based on the new paid people, the equipment that we need. So, I mean, we always need money to go in, I guess is the best thing to say. And we've done a lot to offset it. We increased the rates, we increased the subscription prices. We started charging other towns when we covered their primary calls. And there isn't enough volunteers, not just in the area, but it's a nationwide shortage. So we've pulled all of that, and it really didn't, we can't do any more on that side of it.
Thank you.
So just to add, if I can, Marty, add
Yes,
that a
yes.
little bit. So when she refers to the 3 full-time and we're going to get 4, the paramedics is what she's referring to. We have below paramedics, of course, that are part-time, but the ideal situation would be get to 5 paramedics full-time. And that comes with, added costs, added benefits, insurance, et cetera. But I think it'd be a worthwhile venture to get to that. We're not at that point right now. We should add the 4th at the end of this month. She's in training and should be graduating and joining us full-time at that time. So we'll have 4 at that time, which is a really good number to have because it's been difficult to attract good quality people. But we've got a good staff right now, and things seem to be moving well. And so, Sharon, to answer your question, we hope to come back, next year looking for the 5th if we haven't already done something in the meantime.
Further discussion on Article 9, Ms. Bixby.
Sorry, so it's probably not appropriate now, but if you want to raise this amount, like up to 100,000, just to give them a cushion in case they could hire a 5th person quicker than later. That's not appropriate now, correct?
You could make a motion to amend the article, right? And then I would have to decide if the amendment was germane. It means, are you really changing the whole thing, or are you just tweaking it? And then if it's germane, then we would see if the amendment has the support of the body. And if it does have the support of the body, we would then move the article as amended. And if it didn't have the support of the body, yes, Mr. Schmidt.
I mean, I appreciate, and I know that the body, the citizens would support. I don't know if I necessarily agree with Scott in the sense of, we looked at this number, Scott proposed it, talked to Stephanie, and I think it's the right number to begin with. I can assure you that whoever's on the select board, we are never going to not have the ambulance operate. And we're going to figure out a way to make sure. But I think there's a lot of things that we should watch come together. We're looking at rates. That was something that the report told us we should take a look at. Doing some different billing. The team is really working hard to try to make this all come together. Also, I think that there needs to be more discussion about a regional ambulance, and that is some conversations with other towns, and what can we do? Because we're not the only ones that are going through this. So while I respect what you're trying to do, and would leave it up to you, I do think that select boards have never been shy about asking money. I think if we felt it should be more, we would have, put that in. But I think we feel pretty comfortable that we're going to be able to make this work. And I'm only saying that to give people that this has been a discussion that we have had quite a bit. And we know that we've got to shore this up and make sure that when someone makes a call, that they are there.
Further discussion on Article 9. In the back. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Hi there, George Abraham, High Street. On page 19 under the budget.
Page 19, I'm sorry.
On page 19 of the budget highlights for ambulance, couple of quick questions. Line item 24, building services. It's going to go from 9,000 to a budget of 20,000. And I think this is kind of following up what Bruce was just saying. Wasn't sure if you're going to maybe use that money to outsource your billing and maybe improve on collections. I was just wondering what that was. And then likewise on line item 30, your property casualty loss and workman's comp, it's pretty much doubling the budget. And so just asking those questions.
So you're correct. You're correct in the billing service. We did hire an outside vendor to facilitate our billing. It started January 1st, and it's really looking like it's going to work out well for us. Cuts down on our accounts receivable and increases our cash flow. And to your second question, we had a couple workers' comp claims last year, and that's why that number jumped so considerably.
Actually, one more question, just a general question.
Yes.
Now that the situation of Springfield Hospital, their bankruptcy, as well as the offshooting of our local emergency center, what's the plans? Do we have a contingency plan to go maybe not to Springfield, or are we staying in Springfield?
I'm not so sure that has anything to do with this article, but if you have a...
It probably doesn't, but I can just tell you what I've heard, and we're actually going to hear at Rotary tomorrow an update from the interim Springfield Hospital CEO. Last year he came in and spoke to us and said that our local health center was a profit generator for the hospital, and so that was always going to be here, and some of the others were not, and so they would probably go away. And I'm assuming that's what you're going to say to us again tomorrow, that actually Jim Rummel's here. I don't know if we want to get into this discussion, Marty, about that, but that's the current situation as far as I know.
We're talking about the $66,000 for the ambulance, so I don't want to get too far afield from that. There'll be an opportunity for general questions and answers under Article 12, so.
Very good, thank you.
Okay? Mr. Rumrow, did you have anything to talk about the ambulance? The ambulance?
Not related to the ambulance, no.
Okay.
Moderator.
Thank you. So the motion has been, is there further discussion on Article 9, I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Van Galen.
I'm not sure I totally heard that gentleman's comment, but I want it known that the Springfield Hospital is doing everything they can do to stay in business, and we should be working with them to keep them in business because they do a great service to this area.
Ms. Bixby, we're talking about the ambulance.
We still are, and I guess I just wouldn't feel right if I didn't ask that, or make a motion that I think this amount should be raised, that the ambulance service should be 100,000 instead of 66,000.
Are you making a motion to amend Article 9
I am,
to raise 66,000?
to make it 100,000.
That's 66 now.
Yeah.
I understand what Bruce said, but I just would feel better if I made that motion.
That's more than a 50% increase. And, you know, the purpose of putting out the town report is so that people can understand what's going to be voted on. And I think raising that to 100,000 from 66,000 is not germane. So I'm going to rule, I'm not going to put that amendment out. This is, however, your meeting, so feel free to overrule the moderator. If someone makes a motion to overrule the moderator's ruling, we can have a vote on that. The gentleman in the back.
Just to clear that up, that's a 30% increase, not a 50% increase.
I think this time I'm right, it's a 50% increase.
50% is 66.
But it's a $34,000.
Roger Crosswell, I would like to make a motion that we do away with the moderator's recommendation.
To overrule the, motion's been made to overrule the ruling of the moderator that the amendment was not germane. Is there a second to that motion? Second, I'm sorry, I need your name. Okay. That's not debatable, so all those in favor of the motion, which is to overrule the moderator, which would then have the effect of making the amendment germane, and we would then vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
The noes appear to have it. The noes do have it, so the ruling of the moderator is sustained. Further discussion on Article 9.
The question.
Further discussion on Article 9. Mr. Jerkois.
I make a motion that we amend the amount for the ambulance service to $75,000.
Motion's been made to raise the dollar amount in Article 9 to $75,000. Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Buckley. Okay, the motion's been made to amend it. We will now have a discussion on the amendment. What happens is if the amendment passes, we'll vote on the article as amended. If the amendment doesn't pass, we'll go back to the article as submitted. Discussion on the amendment. Yes, sir.
Gary McIntyre. Throwing out numbers is arbitrary and capricious, based on no fact, what we need, what we don't need, and I assume that the article that we're voting on, the 66,000, has been worked out some type of number-wise in order to get there. Why are we throwing out numbers arbitrarily?
Because it's town meeting and would throw out numbers. Anyway, thank you. I didn't mean to make light of it. We're discussing the amendment. The amendment is to raise it from 66 to 75,000. Mr. Murphy.
We have a whole host of professionals in front of us. They asked for 66,000 because of the paper accounting that they came up with a number that they needed was 66,000. We heard Mr. Schmidt talk about it, we heard the town manager, Mr. Murphy talk about it. It appears that the number we need is 66,000.
So we got you in the no column on this one. Further discussion on the amendment. The amendment, we're just voting on whether to increase that dollar amount from 66 to 75. Further discussion. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good evening. Further discussion on the amendment. There appearing to be none. All those in favor of amending the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed to amending the article signify by saying nay. Nay. The nays appear to have it. The nays do have it. The amendment failed, so we're going to go back to the article as submitted. Further discussion on the article as submitted. Mr. Van Galen.
I move the question.
Mr. Van Galen has moved the question, which means there's no further discussion. It takes a 2/3 vote and it's not debatable. All those in favor of the motion to terminate debate signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed to not terminating the debate signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. We will now vote on the article. All those in favor of the article as written in the report signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and Article 9 is adopted. Article 10. Shall the voters of the town of Ludlow appropriate the sum of $7,250 excuse me, to the current and Marble Valley Regional Transit Company of Rutland to support the public transit bus service to Ludlow from Bellows Falls and from Rutland. Is there a motion on Article 10? Ms. Carter.
I move to adopt the article.
Motion made to approve Article 10. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Ms. Thompson. Discussion on Article 10. Yes, sir.
Gary McIntyre.
I'm sorry.
Little clarification. Are other towns contributing to this, like Bellows Falls or Rutland?
Wow.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Fair share?
Yes, I don't know what others do contribute. I haven't looked closely at the budget that we received from them, but this is our number. It seems to have been our number from years past, and we seem to profit by it. We benefit from it, so we support it.
Discussion on Article 10. There appearing to be none. All those in favor of the motion, which was to adopt Article 10, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and Article 10 is adopted. Article 11. Shall the voters of the town of Ludlow vote all public questions by Australian ballot? Is there a motion? Is there a motion on Article 11? Mr. Van Galen.
I'd like to request to see if there's 6 more people that'd like to vote this article by ballot tonight here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'll do the counting.
5. 6.
Mr. Van Galen asks if the 6 other people will join in requesting a paper ballot. If you would like to join Mr. Van Galen in that request, please raise your hand. I don't see him, Herb. Discussion on Article 11. Yes, did we get a motion? We didn't even have a motion yet. Motion on, yes, Mr. Alexander.
I make a motion, we approve Article 11.
Motion made to approve Article 11. Is there a second to Mr. Alexander? Yes, second. Now we can have discussion. Discussion on Article 11. Mr. Isaacson.
I think that there are certain things that go on in this town that are appropriate to have done by Australian ballot. I also understand that at some time in the past, the town people have voted to do everything by hand vote. And right or wrong over the years, it's kind of wavered a little bit. I think there are some things that should be done by hand vote and some things that should be done by Australian ballot, and you can't make a rule that says they're all the same. And we have elected officials sitting up at the table, our selectmen, select people, whatever, and I think it should be up to them to decide which things are decided by hand vote and which things by Australian ballot. No rule covers every situation. And we may not always agree on what the appropriate thing is for a specific situation, but they're our elected officials, and it should be up to them.
If If I was in the audience, I would want to know what a public question is, but I'm not in the audience. Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
You know, I am against this article. I feel that we should have a town meeting format. But I also understand that there are situations where, you know, there's different votes, different situations that should be done on Australian ballot. I have been talking about this for the past few months when it became evident that we found out some new information when we were talking about the school. So to answer Alan's question, what I would encourage those who are on the select board is to look at doing a town charter, because that is the only way that we can make, whoever is on these seats can make the decision to how we vote. There is no charter in the town of Ludlow. So moving forward, you can go to the legislature, get a charter. I had a good discussion this morning with Logan about it. And you can put these things in, you know, in your charter. It takes some time. There's some positives and negatives of a charter, but it does allow the select board to make the decision on how you're going to vote. So that would be the step that we would have to make. The select board is not, the town voted in 1989 to hold public questions in a town meeting format. Just like this. Pete Connor was leading the charge. And that was the decision, and that's the way it's been. So I'm hopeful that this will be voted down and that we can then move forward and try to get something, because I do think it would be good for the town to have some options.
Mr. Buckley.
If there's something that you think you want to have broken out, can't it just be done as an article, similar to what we just did on the ambulance service? And have a separate vote on that thing at town meeting?
Yes, I believe you would have to have it be an article, so you would have elections would be an Australian ballot, and then the other items, the way it is now, that's why you're seeing everything is here. You know, normally you might even say that something like this that came as a petition, because this was a petition, would be voted on by Australian ballot in some towns. And I researched some of these towns, and I talked to Scott, I talked to the town attorney, why is it different? And it comes down to this charter situation. So we cannot just say, your select board cannot just say, we're going to vote this by Australian ballot, or you're going to vote this by town meeting. The way it is now is the town votes are done in these. We would have to call a special meeting, a special town meeting for different things, but that's the way it's done.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes, can I just ask a question? On any of these articles that we've already voted on, if someone such as Herb had said, are 6 other people interested in voting this on Australian ballot, we could have done that?
Australian ballot is different than the paper ballot, and it's not the same. It looks the same. Australian ballot is what you do tomorrow. Paper ballot is tonight.
Okay. And could anybody request a paper ballot tonight on any of these articles if they had 6 or more people?
They could. Yes, they could.
7. Okay.
Mr. Alexander,
I just want to add that, many times over the past few years, I'm fairly new to this town, but I know that there have been many occasions where the select board have called for a vote by Australian ballot, which was inappropriate, okay? And so I think, I don't agree with us moving forward with this system that we have now. The charter can take a long time. There are votes coming up, I believe, I'll mention particularly about the options tax that will be coming up, that will be forced to do that by the town hall format. So I am certainly in favor of the going to the Australian ballot, I would ask you to just bear with me for a few moments because I may put some notes together that I'd like to share tonight. The question we face tonight is how should the people of Ludlow vote on issues that affect not only our spending and taxes, but the policies which dictate how we determine the method in which we control these decisions. Currently, that system only allows for the town hall process. I understand from listening to interviews with current contenders and the town manager that there have been times when the Australian ballot was used. It's questionable whether those votes were legal or binding. This means that only those attending a town hall meeting have the opportunity to voice their opinion on these matters. The town of Ludlow currently has around 1,500 citizens who are eligible to vote. In 2019, 71 of those citizens attended this meeting. That's less than 5% of the voters. Some of those not attending do so to lack of knowledge about our system of government in Ludlow. Many of our current citizens are new to Vermont and don't understand the town hall concept. But many of them are simply unable to attend for legitimate reasons, whether it be hardworking families, illness, travel, etc. How do we address the problem of what I will call voters, maybe could be called voter suppression? Though this may not be intentional, I feel it is important for all the citizens of Ludlow to have a valid voice when it comes to matters of considerable expense or policy. We now operate with a select board that sometimes I feel isn't sure of its duties and powers. Should the select board on its own decide to purchase property that may have long-term financial burdens? Should the select board, without a fair opportunity for the citizens to have a vote, decide to impose an options tax? If there is a vote on this highly sensitive issue, should it be based on a vote of less than 5% of our voters? What has been proposed this evening is that we change our system of voting on the articles presented to a system called Australian ballot. I certainly don't like the term used to describe it, and it may sound scary, but in essence, it's the system we've used to choose our elected officials nationally, statewide, and locally for years. This system allows eligible individuals to vote secretly by paper ballot, or as we do in many cases electronically, during prescribed time, on a prescribed day. It also allows for absentee ballots or early voting for people who may not be in town or may not be able to attend this meeting. Typically, for local election, this sees voter turnout substantially higher than that of a town hall vote, and for national and statewide votes, an even higher percentage. In seeking signatures for this petition, change our system, I was easily able to obtain 100 votes, 100 signatures, more than have been attending any town hall meetings on a regular basis. Of those approached, only a few didn't take the time to listen, and almost no one refused to sign after listening to the purpose of the petition. But the great majority felt it is important to allow as many citizens as possible the opportunity to vote on issues that affect their taxes and the policies that dictate the spending of their government officials. This proposed change will help to achieve that goal. Some people have expressed the issue of this vote, this change in voting to eliminate the town hall process. And by name it might, but the process and the opportunity for citizens to be presented with the articles and issues to be voted on, as well as an opportunity to express their opinions and ideas, will not change. Some of the issues decided on during town hall meeting, such as amending budget items, can and probably should be addressed during the discussions by the select board and the department heads. We all have a right to attend these meetings, and I have been told that input is indeed welcome. Any issue voted on by Australian ballot must be preceded by an informational meeting, following very closely the format that we are currently going through this evening, whereby we can offer our opinions, voice our concerns, and share information which will allow us to vote from an informed position. Publication of the minutes of this meeting prior to the vote would allow those unable to attend the meeting the opportunity to review the discussions and make an informed vote during the extended voting hours on the subsequent election day. Many towns throughout the state have adopted this policy, and while there certainly will be a change in the way we do things, I feel the process of the Australian ballot still allows us to meet as a community to discuss the annual issues that face the town and its constituents, and and allows the greatest opportunity for the citizens to vote on important issues. The demographics of Ludlow, as well as the needs of the town and the lifestyle of our residents, is constantly changing, like it or not. Therefore, we need to update the system we use to determine how the town hears the voice of all the people and determines what it can best do to provide the leadership we deserve. In the future, there may be an alternative solution to improve this way. But for now, I feel that adopting a policy of deciding important issues by Australian ballot is beneficial to the voting citizens of Ludlow. We are better served when more voices are heard.
Discussion on Article 11. Mr. Bacon.
So if this article is passed, this would totally eliminate this forum every year?
I don't know what a public question is.
Well, that's, Bruce just signified by saying yes. So, and it's saying that all public questions, so anything that comes up would have to be done by Australian ballot. Okay, I've lived in this town for 33 years. I come to probably 90% of these meetings, town hall, this type of forum. And I'm guessing, but I don't see that the same people that he's saying aren't coming to these meetings. Why is it so sure that they will come when it's time to vote by paper? I don't understand how that works.
Well, hold on. Well, you recognize I'm going around the room here. Ms. Carter.
What we've been doing tonight, like talking about the cemetery article and making changes on the floor, we wouldn't be able to do that anymore.
Sure.
We wouldn't be able to discuss and change amounts or add things, and I totally would like it to start to go down.
I'm going around the room. I can't see who that is. Oh, Mr. Nelson. Now I see.
Arthur, responding to Arthur's comment, I don't get to town meeting very often, but I do vote on every election. So I'm one of those people. So I do appreciate the comments the gentleman made earlier about that Australian ballot. I think he has a valid point. But I would recommend everybody voting to vote for the town meeting. Keep it.
I'm going around the room, people who haven't spoken to this subject. Mr. Van Gogh, you're up.
I don't know what the answer is, but I've been coming to these meetings since I was 16 years old. Paul Pulliman, our great history teacher, required us to come here and then write up a paper talking about town meeting. And back in those days, this hall would be full of people, standing in room only. So I don't know what the answer is. I think this gentleman has some good questions and some good thoughts. But what we should be doing, we got to do something different. I mean, what do we got? 40 people here making the decisions for what? 3,000 people on our checklist?
1,600.
1,600. So there was 40 people making the direction of our community for everybody. And they can't vote after tonight. And I'm sorry, my good friend, Mrs. Gerdak, couldn't make it tonight. And it's happening with a lot of us older folks. We can't get here, so we can come and vote. But attending the meeting, it's hard for us senior citizens. I don't know what the answer is, but we need to do something to improve people so we know we got a better thought of what direction our community wants to go in. Herb Van Gogh, by the way. I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator, you asked me to answer.
No one knew that. Further discussion. Mr. Pullman.
I'm Pat Pullman, Paul Pullman's son. I just rise in opposition to this as well. Actually, NPR this weekend had a great newscast on the town meeting in Vermont, and we're fortunate as a state, one of the very few states that can go through this process. The reality is all 1,500 residents have an opportunity to be here this evening. If it's important to them, they should be here. And our responsibility is to try and help get those people here. It is important, but nevertheless, I think it's important to have this opportunity. Mr. Van Guyler, for the number of years I've attended, I've always enjoyed and been enlightened by many of the times you've stood up in opposition or support of many of the articles. Some that you have as well had an opportunity to voice a change on, which wouldn't exist if we were simply voting by ballot. So I do support voting this down, but again, appreciate some of the input and information the gentleman's brought up about it, but I think this is germane to us being Vermonters.
Further discussion on Article 11, Mr. Thomas?
I think going to Australian budget would get more people to vote. However, would they be educated voters because they haven't been here for the discussion, or you'd be able to change anything as, you know, we have tonight? It was about 30 years ago, I think, that this town changed from voting on the school budget at an open meeting to Australian ballot. And then people would go into the ballot booth and they'd see, oh, they're increasing the budget. No, without any input as to why the budget was changing for our schools. So I'm concerned about doing this, and we'll probably vote no.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Your Honor, Mr. Bateman.
Just to refresh my comment, it wasn't meant to be a personal affront to anybody who is not coming to the meetings or can't come to the meetings. My observations are only from my historical perspective, from what I see at the meetings. I think anything that lessens what we can do and make changes in this town is not good for anybody in this town. And from what I'm hearing tonight, the knowledge that I'm getting from people speaking, some of my own things that I've been looking into, I think that this is just going to eliminate a lot of public support and a lot of the way the public can vote on what happens in this town. I'm absolutely against it. And again, just so everybody understands, this is not meant to be a personal affront to those people who are not here.
Yes.
Paul Donnelly. My political skepticism is starting to rise a little bit. If we were to push all of this onto a ballot paper or Australian, there are a number of means where people who had an agenda could go out to the community in a letter writing campaign, email campaign, newspaper campaigns to skew the information, to push people to vote on articles for which they really weren't well versed, simply because they read it or somebody told them. And the town meeting format does allow them to sit, hear the information, hear the pros, hear the cons, and not get conned by a number of other people.
Yes. Alexander, I'm totally for this article. I started the petition. There are many, many people who cannot be here tonight because of work, or sickness, you just name it. They might want to be here, but they can't be here. As far as this can still have the meeting, it can still be informational, you can ask all the questions you want, and then put it on the town's website so people can actually see what's said. It doesn't have to be any writings or people skewing anything, because that's the only place you can get the information is from the town website, because it's not put in the papers, it's not put anywhere. So you still have an informational meeting, you can still do the same discussions that people can get here. But when it comes to voting for big things, like an option tax, or municipal fund buying, or whatever it may be, big ticket item, people have all day to get to the building to vote at a time that they can. And sometimes in that whole day, from 10 to 7, usually you can get here for 5 minutes to vote. So not everybody to get here tonight, and this is not a sample of over 1,500 people. That's what really bothers me the most. 5% last year voted on everything. That's 95% that did not vote.
Mr. LeGros.
I've lived here most all of my life. My grandparents lived here all of their lives. And back in the days when they were here, they lived 20, 30 miles out in the boondocks. And it didn't matter. They had to milk the cows, do all their chores, and they still made it to town meetings. Back then, people from all over the neighborhood, completely out of the grid. They didn't have transportation. They used a horse and buggy or a sleigh, but they made it to town meetings. I've been to town meetings. The roads were only half plowed. You never knew if you were going to get home or not. But we made it to town meetings. And the importance of having a town meeting is just like we have tonight. We have discussions. Without the discussions of some of this stuff, it's like the gentleman was saying, it can go anywhere when you just put it on a ballot, because that person isn't going to be interested. He's just looking at dollars. Maybe he's good on dollars, maybe he's going to reject all of it. But it's not helping the town meeting. This system has worked for 2 or 3 centuries now, and it's still working. And we're lucky to still have it, and we ought to keep it around.
Thank you. Mr. Kalenda.
Just an observation. It is a light attendance for these town meetings the last several years. But I think part of the credit goes to the select board, the managers, for doing a responsible job running the town. If there's some hot item that came up, this auditorium would be packed. But the selectmen and managers are doing a great job, and I think that reflects on the turnout here.
Thank you, Mr. Kalenda. Mr. Alvin.
David Robin. I've only lived there 20 years, so probably doesn't really count that. But I think, in my view, the best way to settle this question would be by an Australian ballot.
No.
No, Australian ballot. So that everyone would vote.
Ms. Bixby.
Well, I did sign the petition. I wrote it. David asked me to, and I said, David, I'm against this, but I'm going to sign it. So there could be this open discussion, which I think is the greatest source of American democracy. This is what Vermont's always been about. To talk to your neighbors and decide an issue, and you walk out, you're still friends. So I'm strongly against this article, and I'm going to vote no.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Gary McIntyre. Looking at the other side of the coin, most of the time when I vote, I'm out of town, it's absentee ballot, you just took my vote away. So I'm in favor of Article 11 and the Australian ballot. At least I will get to vote.
Further discussion. Mr. Murphy.
So I agree with Mr. Kalenda and everybody else that's voted in opposition to this. This gets warned 30 days at least ahead. We know tonight that a year from tonight, we're going to be back here. And if there's an issue, then it'll be printed in here. And we can come back and speak to it. I've been here all my life. I encourage people to come here. Our town needs new people to come into our area. But I'm in hopes that these new people don't come into our area to change the way we do business. So I'm opposed to this article, obviously, and I think the select board and our town manager do a good job. Do I always agree 100% with them? No. But I've got thick enough skin to look at everything and say, you know, they're doing what they think is right for the town. And I voted them in there because I voted by Australian ballot to put everybody here at that table. I'm opposed to the article. I think these guys do a good job for us. I agree with Mr. Galinda. The reason we have a light turnout is there's no issues. And you know, a year from now, if you want to be at the town meeting, it's going to be the first Tuesday in March. So you have all the opportunity in the world to change your whole life around the first Tuesday in March next year.
You didn't know what yet.
But vote on Tuesday. So, and it's like that, and it's been like that. So next year, you know we're going to be here. And I know we need new people to come into town. It's good that we still have 1,600 people here. But there's nothing earth-shattering we do that can't be done here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mallory.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Roger Croswell. I didn't hear anything that was in the petition or what Mr. Alexander said that would do away with town meetings. I think town meetings are very important to have this kind of open discussion, to share views and come to a consensus among the voters of our town. So I'd like to hear discussion about that point. Why do some people believe that town meetings would go away? Couldn't it serve as a forum to agree to what is the final question that gets put on the Australian ballot? And if the article that's discussed here in the town meeting is not agreed by the group, can't we agree to a revised article that then gets put on the Australian ballot to vote on? So you have the opportunity to discuss this stuff. We still have town meetings. So I don't know why people believe the town meeting would go away, because it is a valuable forum.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Schmidt would like to.
I'll just answer. So what would happen is there would be an informational meeting held not more than 10 days before the vote. So most likely you could have it earlier, or we could have it on a night like this, and then you vote tomorrow. But as was mentioned, the warning is put together, so any changes would have to be made when the select board is putting together their budget. So we start in November, and January we have to have this warning that has to be approved and then posted so people can see this is what you're going to be. So there would be no changes in that. That informational meeting would be people coming and, okay, your budget is $4 million. Why is the recreation? They would just be asking questions, but there would be no changes.
Further discussion on Article 11. Mr. Kirkbride.
Yeah, well, if this article is voted yes, just think, you're not going to have the fun we have tonight. Plus, you're not going to get a free cookie.
You might have done it. Further discussion on Article 11. Yes, Mr. Alexander.
I'd rather have the people of this town represented properly in our voting rather than free vote.
It is proper. It's just a point of opinion.
Further discussion on Article 11. Yes, sir.
Yeah, someone down here.
Who is Mr. Tucker? Another Mr. Tucker. How are you?
I agree with John Murphy. If things weren't running right, there would be a lot more people. But the town is running smooth and everything's going good. You just have the ones that can get here that come all the time. I was once asked if I was lived here my whole life, and I said, no, not yet.
We're still on Article 11. Mr. Turquoise.
Just to give a little perspective, Herbie mentioned there's 40 people here, when did it count, there's plus 70 or 80 people here. And for who showed up last year to vote at town meeting. I think, Willie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, about 300, maybe plus or minus.
356.
And to another point, you also mentioned that some people, as we get older, we're not going to make it. You know, that's unfortunate. But you also saw how many days from your sixth grade class in here, and that involvement. I mean, it's the kind of thing that, you know, this format encourages. It's great to see. We just cleaned up the articles on the funds. Check that right. Get all those funds on one article. So.
Further discussion on Article 11. Yes, sir.
I just have a question, if you have the number of people who actually voted last year.
This is what Jake has mentioned.
At the meeting or the voting day?
Voting day.
Further discussion on Article 11. Yes, sir. Ms. Alexander. Yep.
Right here in the back of the book, it says, same meeting as tonight, last year, number in attendance was 71 people, which is where the number is 5% of the number of voters in the town of Ludlow who voted last year. The Australian ballot was for the next day, was only for electing officers. So the number of people last year was 71. Yeah, that was the number.
Yes, please. Wait till you recognize. Further discussion. Mr. Bakerman.
I make a motion that we move the question.
Motion's been made to move the question, which is to terminate discussion. It requires a 2/3 vote, and it's not debatable. All those in favor of terminating discussion on this article, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. I believe the ayes have it, Mr. Mayor. Fair enough. All those in favor of the article, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The noes appear to have it. The noes do have it. The article is defeated. And lastly, Article 12. Any other business necessary and proper when met. I'm sure you all know that we can't do anything binding here, but it is your opportunity to ask questions, voice concerns, make suggestions. Ms. Cruikshank, would that
Mr.
be you?
Moderator, can we just take a moment to recognize the select board member who has done a wonderful job over the years for us, who's going to be leaving us after this will probably be his last night. John Neal. John Neal, thank you. Lots of memories with
Yeah, hey, I just want to thank everybody out there that supported me for all these years. You know, this is a great opportunity to sit on a select board. People that have sat with and have, you know, done a lot of wonderful things for this community. I can't say enough things about it, but I've learned a lot. And I'm really glad that we're able to support, you know, the place that I'm from. So thank you very much.
Mr. Buckley.
I was expecting there to either be an article or something on the ballot about local options tax. I thought there would have been a discussion with the select board where they said, oh, we should have a vote on all four. Yes, no. I'm just sort of surprised I haven't seen anything. Any comments from the select board?
Well, the the discussion we just had, the select board felt that it would not be appropriate to, until this question got answered, to put that on as an item. It could have been looked at as, there were things that maybe weren't, can apologize for what's been going on, we just didn't feel comfortable in doing it.
Okay. I guess the question is, when is that question going to be asked?
I'm not sure that it's been decided, but I think who's ever on the select board will it'll be brought up.
Okay, thank you.
I know we have Senator McCormick, and Senator Nitka, and Representative Nicole here. Do any of you wish to take a few minutes to say a few words?
Microphone.
Maybe make more friends by being quiet.
That was Senator McCormick.
I'm Joy. So it's been a long meeting for people. I'm in town. Appreciate people. If you have some questions, feel free to give me a call. My number's in the phone book. So I'll pass that speed.
What's the phone book now?
Oh, yeah.
Day or night? Later at night, the better.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I know people probably want to get out. I put together this little report today. I've been, telling the rest of the towns too. Today, this time of year is really, it's like the midpoint of the session. So a lot of the stuff is in the process of crossing over from the House to the Senate or vice versa. So it's kind of a good time to take a step back and look at what we're doing, what we're working on, what may or may not pass this year. So this is, summary of the stuff that I've been working on a little closer to, and some of the stuff that's otherwise, kind of big bills that are coming through the House. I'll probably leave copies downstairs, maybe in Pam's office, or around town, maybe in Sweets and Renter or the cafe. I do still do my coffee hours every Monday morning. I'm in one of the towns. I try to be there early so that people can hit me before work if they have time. So this morning I was at the cafe from 6 to 9. Next Monday I'll be at Pearson's store in Shrewsbury from 7:30 to 10. And, every Monday I'm in one of the towns. But hope to see you at one of those, and hope you're able to see fun with these.
Thank you. Anything else under Article 11? Yes, sir. 12, I'm sorry.
A quick question on fiscal year 2021 budget preface, page 15, the tax exemptions. Just wondering what the criteria is to gather tax exemptions. I understand that Blackbird, Lafayette, and the Rod and Jones have already been voted on. Just if there's, and I know the Gill Fellows and Fletcher Farms, but I was just wondering what sets these items as tax exempt, such as the Rod and Run and the South Lodge.
I think it voted on by the town.
I understand, but what's the criteria to contract?
You have to be a registered non-profit. I don't know that there's any more than that.
Yeah, if they do petition. They get a petition signed by 5% of the voters, and then it's put on to vote by the townspeople.
So it's non-profits.
It has to be a non-profit charitable, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Donovan.
Move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Seconds all over the place. Hold on, we have a motion to adjourn. Put that on hold. Go ahead, Herbie. Last shot.
That's a long time Ludlow taxpayer, 40, 50 years. I'm sorry we couldn't afford a better mic system so we could all hear what was going on with people in the back of the room and everything. But there again, as a long-time taxpayer, I want to thank all our departments for doing a good job for the taxpayers.
Motion to adjourn on the floor, it's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.